This PetX Talk is brought to you by Pet World Media Group, your partner in all things pet media. Additional funding and considerations provided by Natura Pets, Found Animals, and Dogwise Publishing. Are you ready to be empowered? Then join us for this PetX Talk.
Well, hi, my name's Dave Preszler. I'm the Technical Director and a Senior Account Manager for the Horn Company for the Animal Wellness Group. We sell raw materials, ingredients into the pet industry, both for pet foods and treats. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about those ingredients to help you understand a little bit more when you go into a pet store and you turn over a bag and you see a list of ingredients. Maybe help you understand that just a little bit more as you buying products for your pets. With ingredients, probably the three key areas that you want to think about when you're considering ingredients, certainly first and foremost is safety. Safety of ingredients is certainly very important for you and your pet. You want to make sure that the ingredients that are being used by these manufacturers are safe and won't cause any harm. It's one thing to have a manufacturer claim, perhaps make some nutritional claim that isn't validated or isn't actual, but it's another thing for them to use an ingredient that could actually harm a pet. There are quite a number of regulatory bodies, both governmental and non-governmental, that oversee the definition of ingredients and the use of ingredients in our pet foods. You may be aware of, certainly of the FDA, because they're involved on the human side of foods and ingredients there. And then there's an organization within the FDA called the Center for Veterinary Medicine, known as the CVM. They also oversee a lot of ingredient definitions. They are involved with any kind of claims a manufacturer might make. And so we have both the FDA and the CVM looking at raw materials. There is also, in each state of the union, there is an organization or a group of feed control officials. Those feed control officials from each state are charged with overseeing the labeling and the commercial sale of pet foods and treats within each one of their states. Those feed control officials are, along with the FDA, are a member of an organization called the Association of American Feed Control Officials, known as AAFCO. That's AAFCO. That organization gets involved in determining definitions for each ingredient. They do not have any regulatory authority, but they are involved in establishing definitions for ingredients. You might be familiar when you go to the store and pick up a product for yourself that you flip it over and you see ingredients listed on the back, and those ingredients are listed in order of predominance. The one there's the most of is going to be listed first, and the second most will be second, and on the line all the way down to the ingredient that there's the least of in that product. Well, it's the same thing with pet products. You'll turn that over and you'll see an ingredient statement, and it will list all the raw materials or the ingredients that are used in that product. Now, it could be a little bit different because some of those ingredients you may not recognize because they aren't the same as human foods. Some might be, but others might not. One thing to be aware of is that each of those ingredients that are listed have a definition, and a raw material supplier, or for that matter the manufacturer of this finished pet food, has to use ingredients that have a definition established, and they also meet that definition as far as safety, and there might be certain active levels or protein contents or things like that that are included in that definition, so that every manufacturer out there are all working with the same raw materials. Now, because those definitions they take a little bit to become established. Let's say a new manufacturer or a manufacturer wants to use a brand new ingredient that perhaps does not have a definition established already. Well, either the manufacturer of that ingredient or the manufacturer of the finished food that wants to use that ingredient may have to submit certain proposals, you might say, to AFCO and to the FDA and the CVM as far as trying to establish a new definition for a particular ingredient. Those ingredients then, once a definition is established, there's a lot that goes into that. Certainly safety is one of the major concerns. They have to be sure that this new ingredient is going to be safe for your pet. We all know, or we've read, that particular foods that commonly you and I might eat may not be good for your pet. We hear things about don't feed chocolate to your dogs, or don't feed grapes to your dogs, or there are other things that we know might not be good for your pet. So just keep in mind that just because it's good for you, it may not be good for your pet. And so part of that AFCO ingredient definition process is to look at things like safety. The submitter of this definition request is going to be scrutinized as far as proving that they've done studies or that there is information out there that shows that ingredient is indeed safe. So safety is certainly first and foremost. Other things then that you might look at with ingredients is functionality. Now, when I say functionality, I might speak from the position of the food manufacturer. Let's say they're going to make an extruded dog food, like the kibble that you buy at the grocery store. That goes through a machine called an extruder. It's heated up very hot in order to cook it and sterilize it so that it's safe. And then it comes out through a die hole or of some kind to make the shape that you might want. There's everything from the standard brown and round, as we call it in the industry, to other shapes that might be bone shapes or triangles or stars or all different types of shapes. So those products, in order to get them that shape and keep their shape, there might be certain ingredients that a manufacturer would need to use strictly for functionality, trying to make it be the right size, the right shape, the right texture. It needs to chew properly with the dog, and cats in particular are very sensitive to how it feels in their mouth when they chew it. It might taste great, but if it doesn't feel quite right, sometimes the cat won't even eat it. So there are certain ingredients that the manufacturer might be using for functionality. Say some of the products that you buy that are what's called soft moist treats, where they might have a certain softness to them. Well, the manufacturer makes those, they put them in a bag, and it goes into the distribution system and ultimately into your retailer. They want to make sure those pieces stay nice and moist and soft. So there could be certain ingredients that they might use in those products in order to give them a particular function. That is, stay nice and juicy and moist and soft for the pet. So with those considerations, certainly with ingredients, safety is first and foremost. Functionality is another, that you're using certain ingredients to make a certain type of product. We talked about extruded products, soft and moist. Canned products also, they might have a gravy in there. You want the gravy to be thick and rich and nice. So there are certain ingredients you might use for functionality. A third concern or point that you want to pay attention to is the nutritional side of things. Certainly it can look beautiful and maybe taste good, but if it's not going to properly nourish your pet, then what's the point? One of the things with pet foods is they're often referred to as a complete and balanced diet. That is, everything is in there that they need to be properly nourished. And that nourishment might be different depending on what stage of life. It could be an adult dog, but perhaps it's a puppy or a kitten that needs different or has different nutritional requirements as they are growing. Same with perhaps a pregnant dog or cat or a lactating dog or cat. So they have specific nutritional needs that need to be addressed by that food. So this CVM, the Center for Veterinary Medicine, they have over the years done many clinical studies and clinical work to establish what's called the dog and cat nutrient profiles. They know what nutrients, how much protein, how much fat, what levels of certain vitamins and minerals are required in order to properly nourish your pet. So those are established, and whenever any company or manufacturer produces a product that they call a complete and balanced diet, they need to have met those requirements in the nutritional profiles that have already been established. Now, often you'll see manufacturers, they will make certain claims about their product. Now, it's one thing to provide complete and balanced diet. It's another to talk about your product such that you might differentiate it from every other food or treat that's out there on the market. They might want to say certain things that it provides certain health benefits, or it contains certain level of certain ingredients, or what we're seeing most commonly or very often these days is marketers who will talk about the negative side of things. We call it the no labeling. They'll say there's no this and there's no that and there's none of this and there's none of that, and they might have a list of 8 things that are not in the food. And because oftentimes, depending on what their customers want, there might be certain key ingredients that they don't want to have in there. Examples would be foods that are labeled as grain-free, where there are no grains in them, or they are labeled as non-GMO, where they're making sure there's nothing that's genetically modified. So there might be quite a no artificial flavors or colors, those types of labels. So with that, in addition, there might be some claims being made about how nutritionally functional it is. What is it going to do for the dog or cat? Claims is a whole nother subject. It'd be easy enough to have a talk just on claims and what they're allowed to say and what they can't say, what kind of clinical evidence needs to be there in order to support these claims. Now, more commonly, you'll see them talk about individual ingredients and perhaps how those ingredients might have an effect on the structure or the function of the body, say of your dog's body. Those are what's known affectionately as structure-function claims. So those talk about the structure or function of the dog and how this ingredient might then help that. There's things like you'll see calcium is good for strong bones and teeth. Those types of claims are a general statement about what calcium does, and so if you have a source of calcium in your product, then it's sort of inferred that then your product will do what calcium is supposed to do because your product is a source of calcium. So it gets a little gray, or you have to be careful, or manufacturers have to be careful about what they're going to say exactly and how they can support such claims. Typically they're going to need to do clinical studies of some kind, especially if they want to make claims about how their product may perform better than, say, a competitive product. They do some kind of a clinical study according to an established protocol, and they get results that they then statistically analyze in order to get certain results. So with that, Those are the things you have to kind of watch for. You're looking for safety first and foremost. You're looking for the functionality, and that might be more the manufacturer's concern than yours as a consumer. And then certainly you're looking at the nutritional function, efficacy. Now there might be some ingredients that you put them in at a certain level and they perform, or there's clinical evidence that show that they have a certain health benefit. But sometimes these ingredients are costly, and it costs a lot of money for the manufacturer to put it in at that particular level. So sometimes they'll just back way off and put in 1/10 that much. We refer to it lovingly in the industry as pixie dust, where they just put a little bit in order so that that ingredient will appear in their ingredient statement, hoping that consumer will see that, they will have heard about it, they know that's a good ingredient. But when it really comes down to it, their dosage is so low that it probably doesn't have the health benefit that they are intending. So you have to be careful with the levels as well. As they say, the devil is in the dosage, both for the small amount that may not do anything for the pet, to the way, way high amount that could be dangerous or could be not safe for the pet. So some of those things, it's very difficult these days. The consumers have to be educated, but where do you go for that information? It's difficult sometimes to understand, but at least know that if you're looking at the safety, which can be ensured through so many agencies that are keeping track of those sorts of things with the manufacturers, and you're looking at the functionality, how it makes the product that you want, and then lastly, and usually most importantly, you're looking at the efficacy or the claims and efficacy of, does this food really do what you say that it does? With that, I'm hopeful that this has been helpful as far as understanding a little bit more about ingredients, and hopefully I can also be available to answer perhaps some specific ingredient questions as well. Thank you very much.
We just finished listening to that wonderfully in-depth talk by Dave Preszler. Dave, I want to ask you, in summation there, you pretty much made it clear. I think it was, there's 3 reasons that products end up in the pet foods that we give to our pets. Is that correct?
That's right. First and foremost is safety. Things have to be safe, and I think we can almost consider that a given. That there are agencies, there's definitions, there's the FDA, the CVM involved. So the products have to be safe, those ingredients. Secondly, and probably more of a concern to the manufacturers, is the functionality of the ingredient. Why is it in there? Many times it's to create the form that it is. Just walk into a pet store and you'll see all the different forms of foods and treats: extruded, canned, liquid, gel, paste, semi-moist, hard biscuits, so many different things, and those require oftentimes very different ingredients in order to produce that. And then probably the area of most concern for the pet parent would be nutrition. How does this deliver the proper nutrition to my pet?
Well, and we talked about that because, you know, the 3, safety, you're right, that is something we all hope for and we're expecting. The functionality of it is more of a marketing thing. But the nutrition, how do we as pet parents get to learn more about the nutrition from the ingredients that we're seeing in the pet foods?
Well, I think so often you'll see ingredients and people will tend to relate those ingredients to themselves. They eat as well. We eat as people, as pet parents. We eat. We know something about ingredients that maybe we've read online, we've seen news stories, things like that. So often there's a phenomenon known as the humanization of pets. We see that people want to treat their pets just like their children. And so they tend to think of ingredients that way too. They'll think, oh, I would only feed my pet the things that I would feed my children. And so that's how they need to look at ingredients. And they have to be a little careful there because pets aren't humans, and they can be eating things that maybe you wouldn't give to your child, and they're perfectly safe and very nutritious for the pet.
Well, thank you so much for all that you're doing in the pet world. We really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us for this PetX Talk. For more information on Dave Preszler, visit ethorn.com/animal wellness. Funding for PetX Talks is provided by Pet World Media Group, your partner in all things pet media. Additional funding and considerations for PetX Talks is provided by Natura Pets. Natura Pets can help you optimize your pet's health with premium organic supplements from the Amazon and Andes Mountains. Visit naturapets.com. Dogwise Publishing, all things dog. For all of your expert dog book needs, visit dogwise.com. Found Animals, working towards big ideas that advance the safety and happiness of animals in our homes, our shelters, and everywhere in between. Visit foundanimals.org. Special thanks to Pet World Insider, taking you inside the world of pets. Visit petworldinsider.com for more expert radio interviews, articles, and videos. This has been a Pet World Media Group production.